Before we begin, I need to give you an extremely serious content warning. This case involves a father murdering his own 13-year-old son. We'll be discussing graphic evidence including skull trauma, decapitation, and deeply disturbing photos that provided the motive. This is one of the most heartbreaking cases I've ever covered. If you need to step away at any point, please do. Your well-being comes first. This is the case of Dylan Redwine. November 18th, 2012. 13-year-old Dylan Redwine is at the airport with his mom, Elaine. He's about to board a plane to visit his father for Thanksgiving, but he doesn't want to go. His grandma is battling cancer. It's probably going to be her last Thanksgiving. He wants to spend time with his friends, and most importantly, he's scared of his father. Come on, you're not that big. Give your mom a hug. Elaine watches as her son, who she fondly calls Bubby, walks through the gates, but it's with reluctance that he boards the plane that day. When Dylan lands at Durango-La Plata County Airport, he sends Elaine a message. It ends with a scowling emoji. His mood clearly hasn't changed on the flight. Within hours, Dylan will be dead, killed by his own father in a living room in Colorado. His remains will be scattered across a remote mountain road. His skull will show devastating injuries, and it will take nearly a decade to bring his killer to justice. This is the story of Dylan Redwine, a 13-year-old boy who discovered something about his father, something so disturbing that when he threatened to expose it, his father chose his reputation over his son's life. Let me tell you about Dylan Redwine. Dylan was described by his mom Elaine as down-to-earth, cheeky, and very witty. He loved sports, especially baseball. He also really enjoyed gardening. He was 13 years old, just a kid, with his whole life ahead of him. Elaine and Dylan's dad, Mark, were married for 18 years. They welcomed Corey first. Then 8 years later, Dylan. But they divorced in 2007. After the divorce, Elaine moved 6 hours away to Colorado Springs and got primary custody of Dylan. Mark stayed in Durango, Colorado, and retained court-ordered visitation rights. The boys occasionally went back and forth and split the holidays. The kids not seeing Mark as much had seemingly worked out anyway. Mark was a cross-country trucker and spent long periods of time away from home. But the truth was, Dylan was scared of his father, and he had good reason to be. On November 17th, 2012, Dylan spent the day seeing his friends and taking pictures with them. It was almost Thanksgiving, and the next day, Dylan was going to fly out to his dad's for a week-long stay. As per the ongoing custody issues, a judge had issued a court order granting Mark visitation rights during the holiday period. Mark had bought his son a one-way ticket out. Dylan didn't want to go. Not only was his grandma battling cancer and it was probably going to be her last Thanksgiving, he also wanted to spend time with his friends. Traveling so far away was just not on his agenda. Elaine had called her lawyer. On the basis that her mom was so sick, she asked if there was anything she could do to keep Dylan there, but her lawyer said, not really. No, Dylan had to go. Court orders are court orders. So Dylan boarded that plane because he had to, because courts, custody orders, and adult decisions had left him with no choice. When Dylan landed at Durango-La Plata County Airport, he sent Elaine a message ending with a scowling emoji. His mood clearly hadn't changed on the flight, which she more than understood. Timeline, 5:46 p.m. Dylan landed and was met by Mark. 7:05 p.m. They went to Walmart to buy a couple of DVDs. 7:22 p.m. They went to McDonald's. That night, Dylan sent a text to an old friend, Ryan, asking if he could spend the night at his place. But Mark said no. Dylan texted Ryan again and said he would see him the following morning. Bright and early at 6:30, they could have the full day together. At 9:37 p.m., Dylan sent his last text message to Ryan. That was his last phone activity. At 9:46 p.m., his phone had either died or was manually turned off. At 10 p.m., Elaine sent a text message to Dylan saying, "How's it going, son? You okay?" No reply. Dylan was already dead. At 6:46 a.m., Ryan had set his alarm and was up and waiting for his friend. He sent Dylan a message asking where he was, but he got no response. That evening, Elaine's phone buzzed, but it wasn't Dylan as she'd hoped. It was Mark. Elaine, I was wondering if you've heard from Dylan. I've been trying to reach him all afternoon. Mark said he'd been calling everywhere but couldn't find him. He said he'd left Dylan home alone and sleeping at 7:30 a.m. so he could go to work. When he got back at 11:30 a.m., Dylan wasn't there. The TV was playing on Nickelodeon. There was a bowl and box of cereal out. Mark assumed Dylan had gone out with his friend, but after many hours, he'd started to get concerned. He'd realized Dylan's belongings were gone too. With a sick feeling in the pit of her stomach, Elaine called 911.
Hi, my name is Dylan Redwine, and my son Dylan Redwine was visiting his dad up in Durango at 13 years old.
Okay, so he's staying with his dad. And what's the dad's name?
Mark
Redwine.
And his dad texted me a little while ago and said he could not find Dylan.
And when was the last time you saw him?
He texted me a couple hours ago. So,
does he have any idea where he may have gone?
and not according to him, no.
Elaine arrived in the small town of Bayfield around 2 in the morning on November 20th. She sent a text to Dylan at 2:35 saying, "Dylan, please be safe. Mom is here to come get you." Elaine arrived, clutching Dylan's pillowcase, which police dogs used to track his scent. They traced his scent about 100 yards down the road from Mark's home before they lost it. As the weather dipped below freezing, concern was at an all-time high. Mark said he was worried the contentious split between he and Elaine had caused issues for Dylan. It had been rough, and Mark was not happy with the way custody had played out. Maybe this was affecting Dylan more than he was letting on. But when Mark spoke to the media, something felt off.
Inseparable. I mean, anywhere I was, he was right there beside me. He would come to me before he would go to his mom. I think in many ways that was part of the problems that developed in our relationship, was because while she was out earning a career, it was very difficult for her to lose sight of the fact that she wasn't there bonding with Dylan the way I was. And I think that was a huge problem for her. I always try at least once a week to contact him. I'm not going to nag him to death. I'm not going to call him every 5 minutes till he returns my calls. I can text him. I can leave a voicemail. I leave it up to him to respond to me when he wants to. But I don't think that his environment was very conducive for that.
What were your plans for Thanksgiving?
Well, we had talked about a couple things. He was here for such a short time. We didn't have anything nailed down. I anticipated, and I was correct in assuming that he wanted to spend time with his friends. So that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was kind of up in there, because that was a day we could either travel to Colorado, or not Colorado Springs, but Castle Rock, where my brother lives, or he could hang out with his friends and come up here, and just the two of us would spend Thanksgiving, and then he could focus on spending the rest of the time that he was here with his friends. And I just wanted him to be happy. So when he wants to spend time with his friends, I get that. I understand that. I have no problem with that. All I need to know is that he's safe and where he's at, and how to get a hold of him. And, it's like me to pop in on him, check, make sure he's at where he says he's at. Those things are important to me. When he's with me, it's me and him, with the exception of his friends. I know those are important to him. Mm-hmm. But, I monitor what he does, where he's at. It's just me and him. There's not people coming and going in my life, because everything I focus on is him and us being together and spending that time.
Notice something Mark is already speaking about Dylan in the past tense. He was such a wonderful boy. He meant everything. Not is. Was. Volunteer search teams and law enforcement started canvassing the region around Vallecito Lake, which spans a vast 12 miles. Mark said his son was a keen fisherman and loved the outdoors, so maybe he had gone to the nearby lake to clear his head. And if out there alone, well, anything could have happened. Mark noted that his fishing rod was missing, so naturally, he put 2 and 2 together. The search teams already had their work cut out for them. This particular area is a pretty isolated part of Colorado. Forests for miles, steep hills, rugged and unforgiving mountainous terrain, and plus, bad weather and cold temperatures. Everything was so much tougher. They searched the lake at least 15 times with dogs, divers, boats equipped with sonar, helicopters, and fixed-wing aircraft. But Elaine knew something Mark didn't think she knew. Dylan wasn't a big fisher person. He couldn't even string his own fishing pole. And he didn't watch Nickelodeon. He watched MTV. Mark was lying. And Elaine knew it from the start.
I think somebody knows where he is. I don't know if somebody's hiding him or if somebody's already done something horrible to him. The panic is just, where is he? Is he hurt? Is he, was he able to have turkey at Thanksgiving? Just all the things you want for your children. Then the panic sets in because I can't do anything.
As soon as Elaine got the message from Mark saying Dylan was missing, she texted him right back. He wouldn't just leave. He would have called me. I am just so suspect of you right now. How could he just disappear? Elaine said that Mark once told her that he would leave a body in the mountains if he ever had to get rid of one, and that he would kill the kids before he let her have them. Elaine knew Dylan would never have run off without telling her or his older brother, Corey. Dylan's brother, Corey, echoed this and said, "We didn't know what Dad had done with him. But from the very beginning, we knew he was involved." Although not admissible in court, Elaine and Mark both took polygraphs. She passed. He failed, specifically on the question, "Do you know where Dylan Redwine is?" When police came to take a statement from Mark, they noticed the home was full of empty liquor bottles. Mark's co-worker, who saw him on the morning of November 19th, said Mark looked haggard and very tired, as though he'd been on an all-night bender. Early volunteers in the search for Dylan also found it odd, as they were out looking for the 13-year-old in the middle of the night, wrapped up and shivering as they shone lights into the trees. Mark was in bed with all the lights in his house off, while Elaine was running on next to no sleep at all. Mark was getting a lot of shut-eye. Mark said he was helping and trying to find his son in his own way, but everything he was doing just struck people as weird. Aside from a few press appeals, he wasn't really involved in any of the searches, and these press appeals were also questionable. He often spoke about Dylan in the past tense. 2 months after Dylan was last seen, his friends and family were protesting outside Mark's house, demanding answers, and when the search warrants turned up some very disturbing results, the feelings surrounding Mark grew even more. Dylan's blood was found in Mark's living room. On the floor, on some of the chairs and tables, a cadaver dog detected the scent of death in the same places, and in the back of Mark's pickup truck, too. Mark had an explanation. He said he and Dylan had gotten into a playful fight, roughhousing, he called it. He said no one was hurt, though officials stressed to the media that at this point he was not a formal suspect and the investigation was still ongoing. But Mark was now a person of interest in the case. One day in April 2013, Dylan's stepdad saw Mark driving down Middle Mountain Road in his pickup truck. The area near Middle Mountain Road is pretty much inaccessible during the colder months, as it usually sees heavy snow. The area ranges between 8,000 and 11,000 feet in elevation. The snow lasts months longer than would typically be expected. Well into summer sometimes, they even close roads and paths up there during this time. And for obvious reasons, the searches for Dylan did not include this particular area. Mark driving up there alone was not only a little odd, it was downright dangerous. So why was he there? Mark then told police he had found the fishing pole that he assumed Dylan had taken that day. But detectives had photographed every inch of his house, and they knew this wasn't possible. Where had it been, and why was it now back? The main reason they had spent so much time at the lake was because of the story about the rod being missing. Something else was soon brought to the investigation, and this would take things down an even darker path. In 2011, Dylan, Mark, and Corey went on a road trip. Dylan found photos on his father's computer. While Mark slept, the brothers looked at the photos in the locked bathroom. Corey took photos of them on his phone. It isn't known what all of them are, but a few in particular showed Mark wearing women's lingerie and eating feces out of a baby's diaper. The photos are out there, but for obvious reasons. We have not included them in this video, and if curiosity does get the better of you, please proceed with caution. Dylan had apparently wanted to use the photos as leverage if he got into an argument with his dad. Corey said his brother was very sweet, but he sure as hell wasn't the kind of person to hold back if he felt something was wrong. Only 3 months before he went missing, Dylan texted Corey saying, "Hey, send me those poop pics of Papa because he gave me a speech about you guys being a bad example, and I want to show him who he really is." Corey did not send the pictures, but Dylan remembered them vividly anyway. Corey said he could feel the fire and frustration in his brother's words. Dylan mentioned to his friends that he wanted to confront his dad about the photos during his Thanksgiving trip, and although he didn't send them to Dylan, Corey admitted he had sent them to Mark. And this was before Dylan went missing, so Mark was very aware that they knew about them. If this confrontation had happened, it was definitely a motive. During an interview with Mark after the Dr. Phil show, an FBI detective told him point blank he believed Mark was hiding things and urged him to come clean.
If you lead us to him, I absolutely guarantee you that I would not arrest you today. If you told me where Dylan is today, and you take me to Dylan, show me where he's at, and I'll drop you back off at your car and your house, we want him back home.
I want that.
If you show us today, show where he's at today, just bring us there. I guarantee you, I'll cut you loose. I'm not going to arrest you today.
But Tom, I can't help you with that because I don't know where Dylan's at.
And I think you do. I know you do. If he fell down accidentally and hurt himself and you freaked out, panicked, and you put him somewhere. You know, it's better to get in front of this than to have somebody down the road find him and then, he's in a shallow grave. This doesn't look good. Last seen by Dad. You can just tell us where he's at and work with us, and we'll deal with all the other stuff later.
I'm not going to sit here and admit to you that I've done something that didn't happen, that I didn't do.
Mark was still adamant he knew nothing. Finally, after the thick, heavy snow had melted, investigators were able to look around the area surrounding Middle Mountain Road, the same place Mark had been driving alone. They found Dylan's Nike Air Jordans in some branches. Then they found some bones they believed to be human. After testing, it showed their instincts were right.
A 6-month-long search for teen Dylan Redwine has ended in the worst possible way. The La Plata County Sheriff's Office just confirmed it has found the 13-year-old's remains. Authorities say a variety of remains, including bones, were collected during a 5-day search of Middle Mountain Road. That's in Bayfield, Colorado, within sight of Iosito Lake.
One of the reasons this evolved from a weekend search to a 5-day search was once we began finding items that gave us an indication that they may be connected to Dylan.
Now, these are pictures of that search. La Plata County Sheriff's Department says a variety of items were found, including the bones. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation alerted sheriff's investigators today that tests conducted on the bones confirmed they are the remains of Dylan Redwine. The boy's remains were found off a road described as rugged and mainly used by hunters or campers. Investigators say they did not search the area on a recent tip, only that it was an area they weren't able to cover very well until recently. Investigators have long suspected foul play. They have not identified any possible suspect just yet. We asked if the community should be concerned, though.
We have said early on that we had not found any indication that this was something that the public needed to be concerned about.
It was just like a whole 7 months of all this hard work and hope and stuff just shattered.
They could not determine a cause of death. Animal scavenging and environmental exposure complicated the analysis, so they needed to find more. In total, 3 bones, scraps of a t-shirt, his shoe, an elastic underwear band, and a sock. The lead detective called Mark after this very big finding, and his response was telling. He kept saying that there were only 2% of Dylan's remains found, which still did not mean he was dead. To his other son, Brandon, from a previous relationship, he said words to the effect of, "If they can't find the other 98%, then they can never prove he was murdered." But the facts were Dylan was dead, and everyone knew that. November 2015, 3 years since Dylan went missing. A 5-day search had been underway as authorities combed through a 12-mile stretch of Middle Mountain Road. But it would be hikers that found the next big piece of the puzzle. About 2 miles from where some of Dylan's bones were found, they found Dylan's badly battered skull. It told a clear tale of a homicide rather than an animal or the elements damaging it. There was evidence of blunt force trauma and sharp force injuries. Dylan's phone, iPad, backpack, and wallet were never found. Despite this big finding, over a year would quietly pass by. January 2017, things in Durango, Colorado would start to change. It was really thanks to the new district attorney, Christian Champagne. He had actually been working on Dylan's case as a deputy district attorney, but now he had a lot more weight and power. Christian told the family to stick with him. It had been and was still going to be a long road, but justice for Dylan Redwine was on the way. He felt no reason not to present everything they had against Mark to a grand jury. July 22, 2017, the grand jury returned an indictment. Mark Redwine would be arrested and charged with second-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death. They tracked him down while he was on a trucking job all the way in Washington state.
Let's put him down, lay him down, and we'll move up. Nick, Bean, and Dolly will grab him. But let's put him on the ground, stomach, arms out. There's a passenger, Just keep your hands up, buddy. Just keep your hands up.
Dolly will watch the cab.
I got the cab. Around me, go around back. Yep, I got the cab. Around me, go around back.
Yeah. When you guys can, you'll explain to me what's going on?
Yes, sir. Is your name Mark?
Yes, it is.
Mark, do you have any weapons on you, sir?
No, sir, I do not.
All right, so go ahead, bend this knee, guys. So there you go.
Are you Mark?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, I'm the sergeant. Did you say you asked to speak with me?
Well, I was asking a few questions. First of all, I'm trying to understand what exactly is going on.
Okay. Before we get going here, I do got to let you know I am equipped with a body-worn camera, records both audio and video.
That's fine.
Okay. Have you been read your Miranda rights yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, let me make sure I get those read to you so that I'm trying to answer all the questions you have.
Well, I don't
But because you're in handcuffs and because you're in the back of a police car, I do want you to know what your rights are
I
too.
haven't done anything for me to have my right. But
Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. The reason why you're in handcuffs right now is because we received the call from an agency in Colorado. What had happened is they had got information that you were potentially up here, and they said that they had a warrant for murder second for you.
I have no clue what that's regarding.
I'm sorry?
I have no idea what that's about.
Okay. What's occurring? Yeah, are you Ricardo? Yes, sir. Okay. And that's Mark with you? Yes. Okay. Mark's got a murder warrant out of Colorado. Okay.
Oh, shit.
And so we got information that he was here and that he was potentially armed with a handgun, which is why we brought you out so carefully that we did. Okay. We understand that you were with him. You're a student driver with him. Okay. And so we didn't want you to be put in a position of being, a hostage or anything. We don't know this dude. We don't know what his story is. All we have is an agency in Colorado saying he's wanted for murder. Okay. And is potentially armed with a handgun. Okay, so I hope you understand why we approached the stop safely and stuff like that.
No, he's a good dude. I know that something happened with his son. So
yeah, and I don't know the whole story. I saw a little bit on Google or whatever, and it sounded like a kind of a long and involved thing, but that kind of has come full circle, and Colorado's saying, we want to talk to this dude because we think he might have killed this kid. So, all right,
that's basically he's gonna go look for him. After, when he gets some time off.
Okay. Has he mentioned anything about the troubles in Colorado or anything to you as you guys were driving and passing miles in time?
He's talking about they're gonna go do a search party for
for him for his son. Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I know he didn't do nothing like that.
Okay. All right. So let me just pat you down real quick. Make sure you don't have any weapons. I'll get you out of those handcuffs. I will ask that you kind of hang out.
He stayed calm as he was put in the back of the car. Told detectives he had no idea what any of this was about. The prosecution described the difference between first-degree and second-degree murder and why this was the charge. First-degree murder is when someone acts intentionally. Second-degree murder is when someone acts knowingly. Mark might not have planned to kill Dylan, and they couldn't prove any premeditation, but he had likely snapped and attacked in the moment. Almost a decade since Dylan disappeared, his trial would begin. This would not be smooth sailing for the state. In 2021, a mistrial was declared after a juror was found to have conducted independent research about the case. A second mistrial would then be declared when one of Mark's public defenders asked the judge to declare it, after saying the defense attorneys were experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. Now, finally, things could move forward. Prosecutors asked the jury to rely on their own common sense more than anything else. The facts were Dylan was scared to travel because of their already damaged and tense relationship. A damaged and deteriorating relationship that turned deadly on November 18th, 2012. Then there were the photos that Dylan had found, which the prosecution made sure were admitted into evidence. They really did provide a potential motive. Corey would speak openly about them in court.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence you are about to hear about and about to see is being admitted for a limited purpose. The photographs are being admitted to allow the prosecution to attempt to prove that the defendant became violently enraged when confronted by others concerning his sexual preferences. The photographs are also being admitted to allow the prosecution to attempt to explain the deteriorating relationship between the defendant had with Dylan.
Wearing a diaper, taking selfies of him wearing the clothing, wearing the diaper, eating the feces that was in the diaper, and just that's pretty much it.
Dylan, back in 2011, was he 12 years old?
I believe so, yeah.
How did he react to seeing those photographs of his father?
He was pretty disgusted. It was something that he kind of had to try to contain himself. When we found the pictures, we were in the hotel room with Mark at the time, and Mark was sleeping, and Dylan was on his laptop, and I walked into the room. I had a conversation with my current wife, just checking up on her since I was on the road. And when I walked into the room, Dylan just kind of grabbed my attention, was trying to be quiet, but obviously was energetic, kind of, like, come here, I got to show you this, kept pulling me, and then he took me into the bathroom where we closed the door and locked it, and that's when he showed me the pictures that he had found.
Did it impact his view of the defendant moving forward?
Yes.
The theory was Dylan did, in fact, confront his dad about the pictures, and this very quickly escalated. In a rage, Mark had killed his son in the living room, decapitated him, and abandoned his body in the wild for the animals to consume. The blood and DNA evidence in the house and truck spoke to this too. The prosecution testified that no wildlife would have transported a human skull such a far distance from the rest of his bones, which added weight to the theory that he was decapitated in the house and his remains spread about by Mark to avoid detection. Elaine testified through tears, saying she knew and always knew it was him.
So can you read the first text from Dylan to you, please?
I'm on the plane to Durango,
Date of that text?
November 18th, 2012.
And how do you respond at 4:36 p.m.?
Oh, good. You did well, son. Proud of you. I love you, and thanks for keeping in touch so well. You're a flying pro.
Send another text to Dylan at 7:03 p.m. on November 18th.
Your dad get you, son?
7:06 on November 18th. How does Dylan respond?
Yes, with a frowny face.
What do you say in that text message on November 19th at 12:07 p.m.?
How you doing, son? I miss you.
The final text message in this exhibit is a text message that you send at 2:35 a.m. on November 20th. What do you say in that text message, Ms. Hall?
I said, Dylan, please be safe. Mom is here to come get you, son.
Mark Redwine didn't testify at all. The verdict was in.
Murder in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark Redwine, guilty of count number 1.
Redwine was also found guilty of child abuse resulting in death.
Redwine was also found guilty of child abuse resulting in death. Mark was convicted of second-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death. Judge Jeffrey Wilson had strong words at sentencing.
Judge Jeffrey Wilson said, as a father, it's your obligation to protect your son and keep him from harm. And instead of that, you inflicted enough injury on him to kill him in your living room. After the passion of whatever caused you to act the way you did subsided, you didn't think about Dylan, you thought about yourself. You sanitized the crime scene, you hid Dylan's body, and you went so far as to remove the head from the rest of his body. After all this time and listening to what was heard in this courtroom, you still take absolutely no responsibility for what happened to Dylan. You have trouble remembering a convicted criminal defendant that has shown such an utter lack of remorse for his criminal behavior.
The now 60-year-old was sentenced to 48 years in prison, effectively ensuring he will die there. This was the maximum penalty allowed under Colorado law for the charges. Mark continued to maintain his innocence. In a letter to the judge, he called it a miscarriage of justice, a fake conviction, and a sham trial. Christian Champagne said he admires and respects Elaine and Corey so much for their endless fight. He said that in Colorado alone, there are over 1,500 cases that have gone unsolved. And the message is clear. Keep fighting and never give up, Corey said, as hard as it's been. He's trying to turn it around for himself and his family. It has definitely kept me up a few times at night. But then again, it makes me strive to be a better parent myself. A parent is meant to be a child's safest place. Dylan Redwine boarded that plane because he had to, because courts, custody orders, and adult decisions had left him with no choice. And like so many children caught between fractured families, he was asked to navigate tensions that he didn't create and he couldn't control. Sometimes the most dangerous place isn't the remote wilderness. It's the home where trust had already started to erode. Elaine said, "I don't think anyone will know what happened that night." Unfortunately, Mark will never say, this was such a senseless crime. Dylan put a bright spot in our lives, and now that's gone. I don't think closure is the real part of losing somebody personally. I can't move on from my son. I can't just close the chapter and pretend he never existed. I'll always be sad. I'll always mourn his death, and I'll always celebrate his life. Those are my thoughts on this case. But what are yours? Do you think Mark Redwine received the sentence he deserved? Do you believe there's more to this story that we'll never know? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate you being here. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me continue bringing you these important stories. And please, remember this. If you're a child in a situation where you feel unsafe, tell someone, a teacher, a counselor, a trusted adult. You deserve to be safe. And if you're a parent going through custody battles, remember that your children are not weapons. They are not pawns. They are human beings who deserve love, safety, and stability. To everyone watching, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay safe and stay curious. Thank you and goodbye. Dylan Redwine, November 5th, 1999 to November 18th, 2012, 13 years old, down to earth, cheeky, very witty. Loved baseball, loved gardening, loved his mom and brother. He boarded a plane because he had to. He was scared. His own father killed him. Dylan, you deserved so much more than this. Your mom and brother never gave up fighting for you. Justice took nearly a decade, but it came. Rest in peace, Bubby.